All right, everybody. Let me check that everything's working here. I have a friend here tonight that isn't Jack Day because Jack is helping his dad out tonight, and that's no problem because I know it's been a while, but we are back. So once again, welcome in to Load the Box. I'm your host, Jordan Hawthorne. And this week, like I said, I'm joined by somebody different than Jack. It's odd, it's weird, and honestly, I don't like it, and I'm thinking about kicking him out of my house. This is Chris Paxidis. You will see that he's a Browns fan. I brought him on, one, because I think he knows a lot about the game of football, and two, he's just a good buddy, and nothing like shooting the stuff with a good friend about football, especially now that unfortunately the Vikings season is over. So Chris, before I break down the Vikings-Lions game that's coming up, and then quickly the Vikings-Saints game, which is going to be a headache, and I'm going to need a drink or two to talk about. Talk to me about, how long you've been a Browns fan. Just kind of tell the people who you are. Talk about, the Browns this year, and just draw yourself down. Give me a little intro on yourself.
All right. Well, my name's Chris Paxidis. I'm 28 years old, which means I've been a Browns fan for 28 years. 28 long, hard, and very difficult years. But with this team, you stick through them thick and thin. Stuck with them when they moved, when they came back, when they were bad. The 1-15, 0-16 year that was just awful. But hey, now look at us. Who's laughing now?
Potentially a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna talk about some football scenarios. Because I don't want to just talk about the Saints game the entire night.
Yeah, that was bad.
Oh my
that
God.
was.
On Christmas Day, and there's a video on Load the Box's YouTube channel that you can go back and watch. Give us a subscribe while you're there. Also follow the show on Twitter at LTB Vikings. But there's a video, as soon as the schedule released, I hopped on and made about me. It's pretty much just me just ranting for probably like 15 minutes about the Vikings schedule and how I thought it looked favorable-ish, depending on how the young players played, and they haven't played great, but the most of the video is just me talking about how I hate whenever we play on Thanksgiving. I hate whenever we play on Christmas. So any type of holiday game, because I like for those days to be like me watching other teams lose. Like I watch a couple years ago the Cowboys and the Bills played, and the Bills blew the Cowboys out, and it was fun. It was a good game to watch. It was nice. But whenever it's the Vikings on Christmas, like the holiday of all holidays, man, Alvin Kamara scored 6 touchdowns. I'll quickly run through the game. If you didn't watch the game, congratulations. If you did watch the game, the Vikings defense decided not to play. I think the key takeaways are we miss Michael Pearce and Danielle Hunter. Excited to get them back in the offseason. We really miss Eric Kendricks. I'll throw that on the first point. I kind of think Anthony Harris has phoned it in on the year. I'm not going to put words in the man's mouth, but seems like he's playing on the franchise tag, and he's kind of making some business decisions and maybe deciding the odds of us making the playoffs weren't great, so I'm not going to go 110% every week, risk injuring myself, and he kind of wants to get his money, which is understandable, but still, as a fan of the team and as somebody that would like to see my team be like the 07 Giants, kind of pisses me off. And then this is going to be a lot coming from me if you watch the show regularly. I'm not a big Cousins guy. I don't think Cousins is the issue this year. There's only been about one game. I can point to the Seattle game and say Seattle and Atlanta. So 2 games where I point at them and I'm like, you know what? We win that game if Cousins isn't the quarterback because he just made some dumb decisions in those games. But the defense didn't do him any favors in those games. And I don't know. I think I'm out on the quarterback in the first round argument. But me and Jack will talk about that later. I'm going to quickly look ahead to the Lions. And I think everybody shares this take. Stout. Everyone that hasn't stouted yet. Kyle Hinton, I want him in. I want Ezra Cleveland at left tackle. Give me Ali Udo at one of the guard spots. Get Dakota Dozier off this team immediately. And then I want to see guys like Harrison Hand out there getting playing time. I want to see the kid out of Baylor. This is why Jack does the show with me, because he is better at names than I am. But the defensive tackle, James Lynch out of Baylor, I want to see him get playing time. I know he got blew off the ball a few times in that Saints game, but still I want to see him get in there. I want to see all these young guys get in there, get some rotation, get some time playing some snaps. Dalvin Cook's, I don't know if you heard this news, Dalvin Cook's father did pass away after, I think, a month-long battle with COVID.
Wow.
Don't quote me on that, but his father did pass away. He won't be playing in that game on Sunday.
That's sad.
It's very sad. Thoughts and prayers to him because I think...
T's
T's and P's. I think he has lost his mom as well. So I just got a text that you probably heard from my wife saying best buds, and my mother-in-law said guest host ? Yes, Amy, there is a guest host this week because Jack is helping his dad out. So thoughts and prayers to Dalvin Cook. He's not going to be playing in Week 17. I still think he had an all-post season. I think he made a really good case to be the best running back in the league. For my money, he's 2 or 3 behind Derrick Henry. Okay, for my money, he's the second best. It goes in this order: Derrick Henry, and then Dalvin Cook, and then Nick Chubb, and there's kind of that conversation. But maybe that's
you can argue and flip flop. I think all three of those.
I think you can. I think each one.
There's an argument to be made.
Each one makes. I think Dalvin is he brings that all around aspect to it.
He's such a good pass catcher. He's so underrated when it comes in the passing game. He's very underrated.
I feel, and he's not like a wide receiver pass catcher, but his ability to move in space is just. I mean, he almost becomes untouchable. And then what gets overlooked is his ability to go. I don't want to say this because of the type of football that gets played now, but to put his head down and just get in there, and he really does.
A dirty
people.
Runner.
He is. He can get down and dirty. Unfortunately, our offensive line can't right now. So, but you don't have those problems because PFF ranked your offensive line number 1 in the league. So,
the problem is the Browns been dealing with some injuries on the offensive line
and some COVID
and some COVID. Oh, don't get me started on that.
We're going to talk about it, I'm sure. But
we'll get to it.
But looking into the game, I want personally, and I think a lot of people share this, I don't want to see Cousins play because why risk Cousins blowing his knee out and not playing next season? If he gets a Joe Burrow-like injury, especially if we're starting a bunch of scrubs on the offensive line that we don't know a lot about, let's let, I don't want to see Sean Mannion. We know what Sean Mannion is. He's not good. I want to see Nate Stanley get snaps. Because that could factor into, if he looks really good against Detroit, I know it's Detroit, but if he looks good against Detroit, Nate Stanley could potentially be a backup for Cousins for years to come. I don't think we're going to move on from Cousins in this offseason. And the way
there's no reason to.
No, there's not. The only reason you would is, so the way his contract is structured is if we keep him for 2021 on the 3rd day of the league year, his 2022 contract fully guarantees. So if we cut him, we'd have 1 year of dead cap. If we keep him, we'll stuck with him for another year. But I don't think there's a reason to. I think he's shown this year that he is pretty good. We had a talk on the other show that I do, Fourth and Long, last week about how I think you can go either way. You can either go, Cousins isn't mobile enough to play in this style of offense where they want to zone run and he's going to get some pressure on his face and they want to play defense. I don't think he's good enough to run that style of offense and not make a mistake or two that really bites you in the butt in a big moment. If you get pressure on him up the middle, he's done. You just immediately make sure he doesn't fumble and goes down. So if you're going to play that style of offense, let's replace him. Let's get but let's get somebody more mobile. Let's get I'm trying to think of a good comparison, and I really can't right now. Tannehill. Tannehill's the perfect guy.
Yeah.
Baker isn't fast, but he can evade some pressure, and he did that really well at Oklahoma, and he's done it well for the Browns.
Oh, he has.
So a Baker, a Tannehill, somebody that I wouldn't put in the top 5, even though Tannehill, he plays.
He's played well.
He's played. Adam Gase never deserves a job in any league of football ever.
He's a good offensive coordinator.
I doubt it.
I think.
Name a year. Okay, a year he was a good OC when his quarterback wasn't named Peyton Manning. It's tough. It's very tough.
Okay, you got me.
And then
you got me.
I know.
It's hard to.
Man, I don't know. The Jets are one of the hottest teams in football. The Jets and the Bengals are the 2 hottest teams in football right now. They're both on 2-game win streaks.
Well, it's easy to win when you're playing a team that's got all 4 of their starting wide receivers on the COVID list.
I forgot that the Jets had beaten you.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. I forgot that Alvin Kamara had 6 touchdowns.
6 damn touchdowns.
6 rushing touchdowns,
God.
which is just
and he should have had 7 too.
He should have, yeah.
But they gave the ball to Taysom Hill. But we were even saying,
you mean the switchblade?
Yeah.
Or the Swiss Army knife?
Yeah, that's what the switchblade. We were even talking about during the game, me, my dad, and my brother, and we were like, you think Sean Payton's a little salty about the last 2 times we've played him in the playoffs, beating them on the last? It definitely seemed, because, I mean, they were up by, I think they were up, what was it? It was like 12 or 13 with like 2 minutes to go. And they're just like throwing the ball, handing it off. And I'm just like, okay, Sean Payton. It's all right. I'm used to Sean Payton's teams being, cheap and a little filthy. So not
I wonder why. I really wonder.
Me and you have had this conversation a few times because, of course, Greg Williams used to be the defensive coordinator in Cleveland
and interim head coach. And can I say something about that real quick?
Go ahead.
I just want to say I realize that you understandably do not like Greg Williams.
Despise him.
And that's completely understandable, 100%. You have to look at it from my perspective, though, because when he was the defense coordinator and then interim head coach when Hugh Jackson was fired in 2018, I saw that team come together. When that went down, that team came together, and look what they did that season. They finished 7-8-1, and when they were down bad, and Greg Williams brought that team together.
No, I agree.
And a lot of people gave the credit to Freddie Kitchens about the offense that year, but I will say there are rumors, and Bob Wiley, the greatest offensive line coach in the history of the NFL, said, Bob Wiley actually came out and said that Freddie got way too much of the credit that season, and it was really the quarterback coach, Kevin Zampese, who really should have deserved most of that credit. He's the one that worked with Baker day in and day out and got him ready.
That's crazy.
Because
I know that those, me and you even talked about this whenever Kitchens got that job, and we were like, does Kitchens deserve that job? But it was that spot where it was like, and even though there were reports that they wanted Stefanski, which I'll bring it back to the Vikings really quick. They wanted Stefanski, but they didn't want. They just came off this good year with Kitchens, where they looked good on offense, and it's like, how do you let the good offensive guy go? You have to make him the head coach, and unfortunately, he just wasn't ready. He was immature. He wasn't. And then apparently, his demeanor changed too. Like he went from being this fun-loving, let's go get him, and then as soon as he got the head coaching gig, he just all of a sudden wanted to be like Bill Belichick or like this a-hole of a coach that just wants to throw his weight around, and it's like, dude, You've been a coach for 5 minutes. Like maybe cool your jets.
It's like when a coach runs a fake punt. You're a genius if it works out, but you're an idiot if it doesn't. And that was that situation. And they thought maybe they caught fire in a bottle with the Freddie Kitchens hire. Yeah. And unfortunately, that it just didn't work out.
Well, it seems to be working out with Stefanski, which is nice.
And I just want to thank all you Vikings fans out there for Kevin Stefanski.
You're literally just running our offense at this point.
And you know what? It's working.
It's working better without Odell. We'll talk about that in a second. But I want to see Nate Stanley play because this is going to sound bad. I don't mind. If Nate Stanley goes out there and does tear his ACL, I will not like it. I don't want to see anybody get injured. But I would rather see Nate Stanley get hurt than Cousins because we're getting a lot of pieces on the defense back next year. Like, we're getting a lot of guys that are coming that are like, I'm excited about. We're getting Danielle Hunter, who is maybe the best pass. He's in the conversation for one of the best pass rushers. I know Myles Garrett is also up there. There's a few guys in that conversation. Eric Kendricks, who for my money is the best linebacker in football, who's been out with a calf. And then we're getting Michael Pearce, who is just this wide nose tackle. Used to be, the sole nose tackle in a 3-4 defense. He's going to come playing the Vikings 4-3 and really just, eat up guys. That way Kendricks and maybe Anthony Barr comes back, maybe it's Eric Wilson, whoever it is can get in. So I want to see everybody come back healthy next year, and that does include Cousins. So no need for him to take a snap in this game. But going into it, I will say the game ball for me is going to go to I really didn't think about it. I'm going to do both. Really quick, let me do the plug here. It's covering up Chris's face. Let me put it right in the middle of us. Game balls are the highest honor you can get here at Load the Box. Of course, it's whenever we say we think this guy is poised to have a huge game that really, he impacts us and he gets us the victory. And one of the biggest compliments you can get in your life is if, somebody compliments your balls. So Manscaped, of course, we've been telling you all year. I hope you stuffed your husband's stockings with some Manscaped products. Use code LOADTHEBOX, all one word, all squished together. Load the box. Pretty simple. It's going to get you 20% off at manscaped.com. I know a couple of my family members used it this year, and I'm sure their husbands, I haven't reached out, but I'm sure their husbands have loved it because I've got the lawnmower 3.0 sitting in my my bathroom right there. And then I've actually got a couple of the other products sitting right underneath my computer screen here. That I keep in case I want to bring them out and hand model and do all that kind of stuff. But really good products. Also, if you use the code MANSCAPEDPOD, that's going to get you free shipping. So, new year, new you. Start trimming yourself. Start grooming yourself. The thing won't cut you if you try. I'm telling you, you could just start throwing it at people, and it's not going to nick them. It's a damn good product. And I've used some cheap razors in my life that have, left me a little botched in the face. So, even worse if it's in a different area. But yeah, so that's the Load the Box.
And remember, the tree trunk looks bigger when the bushes are trimmed.
I hate you so much, but it's true. But yeah, so Load the Box, of course, love them, love shouting them out, and love their products. But the game balls for this week, I'll do offense and defense really quick. I think on offense, I'm going to go with Kyle Hinton. I think he's a small school guy that isn't getting the time of day because his tape looks like the Blair Witch Project. Like it looks like he played on a high school football field. Those like divots. He played on real grass, which nothing against real grass, but like if you don't take care of it, it turns into like Twisted Ankle City. Mm-hmm. So it looks like he's playing on this like nappy field, and it's real bad. And level of competition. I hate hearing that. He was manhandling dudes in college. I think he's going to come out, manhandle some dudes on Sunday, and I usually will go with the entire offensive line, but this week I'm going specifically with Kyle Hinton. I want to see him show up and show out. Notable candidate, Ezra Cleveland against Everson Griffin. I think that's going to be a matchup to watch. If Ezra does kick out, though, Vikings fans want him to be the left tackle of the future. We'll see what happens as he goes up against a guy that still has some gas in the tank in Everson Griffin. Vikings fans know that very well. It's Cleveland versus Sack Daddy, and I'm excited to see the matchup. So I like Ezra Cleveland in that spot too. So that's the Tom Day offensive line appreciation. I never know what to call it. The Tom Day offensive line appreciation pick right there. But moving over to the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to go with, Harrison Hand would have had to have won the game ball for his performance in the Saints game, but I'm going to go with a guy that I think is getting slept on a little bit. Shamal Stefan is not and has not been playing well, but I think he's going to come out against a shaky Detroit team. Neither team has anything to play for. I think it's going to be a safe played game. I'd like to see Shamal Stefan come out and play at a level that we saw him play at in 2017 when we went to the championship game. Because he was a big part of that team. He was, he had Linval eating up blocks, and he was getting his one-on-ones, and he was winning his one-on-ones. This year, he's getting pushed off the ball. He's expected to be the guy eating up the blocks, and that's not what he's built for. That's not the type of player he is. So I'd like to see Stefan come out and play a little better, but I'm not really looking forward to it. I'd also like to see Troy Dye have a good day, the linebacker out of Oregon, and Blake Lynch. Let's see Blake Lynch get a sack in this game. But that's the Detroit game. Jack Day is in the comments says missing being on tonight, boys. Jack, miss you too, bud. It's always fun doing the show with you, but we're really excited to start talking about the draft, start doing some mock drafts, start really diving in. And he says, wish Miles Doan was healthy and available. I agree with you. I would also wish Miles Doan was healthy and available this weekend because I really want to see what he can bring to the table. But yeah, I would say that I'd like to see what our Cardinals can do, but we're pretty much already playing Cracker Barrel employees out there, lining up against all-pro wide receivers, and I don't know. It's been a long year. It's been a fun year. Always fun to do this show. Tune in for some draft content coming down the line, and with that, me and Chris are just going to kind of talk about football for a little bit, so feel free to stay tuning in. I want to start with a topic that I don't think is getting anywhere near enough credit. I'm just gonna pose this question: Who right now today? Who are you awarding the MVP to?
Ooh, well, I mean, if you put a gun to my head, I guess, man, that's a.
Not who you're betting on. Who would you give it to? Who do you think the MVP is?
Then I know who you're gonna choose, and I'm gonna do a little bit of different for argument's sake.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Aaron Rodgers.
If Aaron Rodgers won the MVP, I wouldn't argue it.
It's hard to argue that. I know
year.
Minnesota fans hate him, understandably so, but it's hard to argue with that. Aaron Rodgers has played his lights out, especially with his protege right behind him in Jordan Love.
He's not right behind him. He's not even putting pads on.
I mean, he is behind him though. He's
there. He's
chart,
waiting
though.
now.
He's ready to take over.
That's a sensitive topic because I almost cried when the Packers took him.
Yeah,
we
watched the draft together.
You were there when I screamed GD it when Justin Jefferson got picked.
Yeah, and he's looking like offensive rookie of the year if it wasn't for Justin Herbert.
I know. Jack, I see you saying Aaron Rodgers, and it's funny that you're saying Josh Allen has been special because that's where I'm going with it, but I want Chris to finish up his take on Aaron Rodgers because I agree with you. I think that would be... that's all not no bueno because nobody's really had that Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes year where they just jump out at you. But I think Aaron Rodgers has looked really good this year.
He has. He's done very, very, very well this year, and he's one of those guys that, like you said, if he won it, you can't be mad at it. No. You can't be mad at it at all. I think he's more than earned it. But go with your pick. Let's talk about that.
So before I go into my pick, I do want to say respect to greatness here. I know that I'm supposed to hate the Packers with all my heart, and I do. Aaron Rodgers seems to, every year, turn some no-name guy that no one's ever heard of into this, Pro Bowl caliber player. And it's not that he just keeps getting guys that come in the door that are, elite players that they found in the 6th round or undrafted. It's that he's that special. And I've said, this is one of the reasons why I am a Cousins hater, is... You can't cover a guy as a defense for 7 or 8 seconds, let alone 15. And Rodgers' ability to move, and then you have to worry about him taking off.
Yeah.
So then you play that, and then he floats it over your head, and he hits he gets a first down. Oh, he doesn't take off, and you pursue him, and then he puts it right there. Oh, his ability to buy time is so incredible. And this year, I think that guy that really jumped out was Robert Tonyan, the tight end. Mm-hmm. I think, and I don't know, that's just amazing to me. Whenever you have guys that like Cousins, it's like, oh, we have to have, the perfect guy dropped in, the perfect system for this guy. He has to have, he's got Thielen and Jefferson. He's got Dalvin Cook. Now he just needs an offensive line and a defense. And it's like, how many times are we going to say he needs these things? Whenever I'm watching other quarterbacks that don't have these things, make these things because they just have a special amount of talent. So I wouldn't be mad if Aaron Rodgers won it, but I think it really should go to Josh Allen this year, especially.
It's hard to argue with that.
It
really is.
Look, it was an election year. Obviously, we're going into 2021 now, and we won't get into the election or anything. We don't talk politics on this show, but it feels like Josh Allen has been on the campaign trail for 2 months now.
Oh yeah.
Just look at me, look at what I can do, and I mean he's really showing. And I fall in love with guys whenever they can throw the ball 75 yards from their knees. I love arm talent more than anything.
So were you a big Jamarcus Russell fan?
I wasn't old enough. Jamarcus Russell got drafted when I was 6. So, Jay Cutler, I know he played in my division, but I was I would watch Jay Cutler and I was just oh my God.
Jay Cutler had a very underrated arm.
Smoking Jay. Yep. He could sling the thing.
Yes, he could.
And so the guys and I don't like Aaron Rodgers, but again, I appreciate his greatness. Aaron Rodgers can just sling the thing.
Yep.
Patrick Mahomes. I mean, him and Josh Allen could legitimately, once COVID is over, they could sell tickets to an arm competition, and they could raise a crap ton of money for charities.
I will say Pat Mahomes, greatest quarterback talent I've ever seen.
Obviously
100%.
there were some older people that would say Dan Marino and Elway, and I know that you hate Elway, but some of these older quarterbacks that play
I think Elway's overrated. I just want to point that out.
We're not getting into your Elway hate, but as a GM, he's awful. But
yes.
I would say that I think Mahomes only needs 2, maybe 3 more rings. And he's clearly the greatest quarterback ever because he has the talent and the rings.
If he keeps up what he's doing,
yep,
there's no reason for him not to take the crown away from Tom Brady.
Oh no, he has it on a silver platter, and
it really does.
And he shocked the world. He's won an MVP. He might win another one this year. I don't think he's again. It's I hate the MVP award because it's basically best quarterback. That's what it is.
It really is.
Unless you like Derrick Henry, I think they said was like 480 yards or something away from breaking the rushing record, and unless he went for like 200 and 250 and came close to it, there's no way it's going to anybody else.
If Adrian Peterson didn't break the rushing record, then nobody's going to.
Somebody will. It'll happen.
I don't think.
Well, you got to think they'll add in the 17th game.
I still don't think it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
I don't
Come
think
on.
it's going to happen.
We've had like 5 guys come within like one decent game.
But when's the last time that it got close?
I mean, this year it wasn't too far off.
You've
got if a guy can go for like
when I say far off, I'm talking about 200 yards maybe.
I mean, obviously Adrian Peterson.
In
2012, so 8 years ago. I know this stat because I play Madden and like I always check the records and stuff in Madden. But I know that there was a guy that came really close to breaking it in like 2008 or something.
That was Chris Johnson.
Yeah,
he had over 2,000 yards that year. That
was
his rookie year as well. Fun fact.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Jack is in the chat, by the way. Jack, again, miss you. Excited to do the show with you next week and stop breaking down some draft coverage. And we'll probably just do a mock draft next week, and we're excited about it. But he says Rodgers was Mahomes before Mahomes. And Jack, that makes you sound like one of those guys that likes indie music that, is like, oh, well, I knew this band before it was cool. But Rodgers, no, I agree with that. Rodgers was,
it's
oh,
true.
my God, this incredible arm talent. If he can only just, get more Super Bowls, and Rodgers only has the one. But I think Man, Rodgers had McCarthy for so long, and I think that held. And the way Green Bay operates, they're always good, so I shouldn't talk too much crap. But I love the way they operate because they never sign free agents.
Yeah.
And they're like super like no trades, no anything. We're gonna do it in house.
Yep.
And Jack, I agree with you. I will also stick up for Rodgers. He's an incredible talent, and he's had a hell of a year. But I love the way Green Bay operates because it's not a good way to operate in the modern NFL. Like it's just not.
Yeah.
Like the Vikings went out and got a second first-round pick this year that we used on Justin Jefferson for trading away Stefan Diggs. Plus, we get an additional mid-round pick this year, and we got an additional mid-round pick in last year's draft.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who exactly that pick turned into because the Vikings had like 50 draft picks last year. We broke the record for the most draft picks in a draft.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Rick Spielman, literally every pick, he was just... And I expected us to draft Jake Fromm out of Georgia because I was like, oh, yeah, this dude's kind of like Cousins. Like, he's not really bumming anybody up with, mobility or arm talent. He's a good quarterback. And Cousins' arm is severely underrated, but I really thought we were going to do it. And every time we'd come up on the clock, they were just like, the Vikings have traded this pick. And then 5 picks later, the Vikings have traded this one. And then Rick Spielman does that. He loves 7th-round picks.
I know exactly what you're talking about, man, when it comes to that. Browns old GM was super analytical.
Yeah, the baseball guy?
Yeah, well, he's actually kind of in charge right now, Paul DePodesta.
Really?
Yeah, they gave him more. They gave him a little more control. Mm-hmm. And you know what? He's made some good choices. He actually wanted to hire Stefanski last year.
Yeah, that's where that quote came from.
DePodesta wanted to hire him. He really did, but
Stefanski's been a really good, and there was talks amongst the Vikings last year that if they lost to the Saints in the playoffs, it kind of felt like Mike Zimmer was going to be shown the dough, and they might be like, Stefanski, wait, don't leave. You've been here for 20 years. Mm-hmm. Be our head coach. You know the offense. You know the scheme. You know everything. Come on this team. We'll get you a D coordinator,
Yeah.
And I wasn't opposed to it, and then we won the playoff game, and it was kind of like, well, Zimmer's not going anywhere. We extend Zimmer, but Stefanski, he understands, I don't know, he's still, that style of offense frustrates me, but Stefanski is, I think, young enough that he understands the necessity of the pass game.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, look, you can't win a game throwing 56 times every week.
If you're throwing 56 times, you've got a problem.
I know you do. The Bengals threw like 52 times against you guys early in the year, and everybody was like, what? You're going to Joe Burrow's going to die. You know you don't have an offensive line, right? Like, he's going to die.
Yeah.
And he ended up holding his leg. And I'm excited to see, I know you're not, but I'm excited to see him come back.
I liked Joe Burrow until he was drafted.
Exactly. And that's, I like Jordan Love until he got drafted to the Packers, right? Like, we all have our guys, but looking at the Browns offense, especially, and it's so weird, but with OBJ not there, it feels like Baker is able to just pick and choose where he wants to go with it. And it felt like it just felt like he never meshed with OBJ. And I don't know if they can get that with like another OBJ is going to be, healing up in the offseason. So it's not like they're going to be out there running routes and doing all that. It felt like there was a necessity to get him the ball. And it just wasn't quite it felt clunky. It felt very forced. Whereas once he left, and I was very excited not that he got hurt, but once he was out of the lineup, I was screaming on this show, the Vikings should draft Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's a stud. Because I watched him play with Shea Patterson, and Shea Patterson's a bum. And he was making...
Awful.
But freaking Peoples-Jones is still out there just doing the job. And I'm like, if you were playing that well with that bad of a quarterback, you are clearly doing something right.
Yeah.
So I really wanted Peoples-Jones, and once I saw him come into the game, I was like, this dude's going to have a good, second half of this season now that he's getting the chances to, and I think he's done a pretty decent job. I know you guys have had a couple other players step in. I know you just poached a guy off of our practice squad, Alexander Hollins, which is sad but not sad for me. He almost caught a ball in the playoffs last year. He was wide open. He's a good speed guy, but I don't know. It's just Stefanski, I think, understands what he needs to do to get Baker playing at a level that he can. You look at Stefanski, he was the QB coach for Case Keenum. And I said, backup. I know, and I said from the beginning, Baker is Case Keenum toned up to a better level. Like, he is a better version of Keenum. He's a short guy. He's not exactly fast, but he has good pocket awareness. And if you can be slow as SHIT, and if you have good pocket awareness, Tom Brady has great pocket awareness. It's why he's not rushing for a bunch of yards, but he can evade a little bit of pressure. And Baker just really reminded me of Keenum, and he plays like him. I mean, he plays in that same. He's a little guy for a quarterback. He's still almost 6 foot, but he's a little guy. He gets the ball, and he's immediately, if he's got pressure on his face, he's not going to outrun people per se, but he's going to, just maneuver that pocket in such a way that he's going to end up finding somebody. And it goes back to that whole, you can't cover for 9 seconds. So if Baker can buy 9 seconds,
you're right.
Somebody's open.
I'll say this about Baker. He doesn't have what you would call the intangibles.
No, not at all.
You look at him, you're like, look at this scrawny kid. I think he's officially listed as 6 foot or 6'1", but he's really like 5'11".
Yeah.
He's really 5'11", so you're like, okay, well, he's a short quarterback. Got little arms, you're like, he can't throw the ball. He doesn't look the part, but he is just a ball player.
Yep.
He just makes plays. You put him out there, he's gonna do something. He's like Taysom Hill. It's not exact. Okay, that was a bad comparison. What I mean with like Taysom Hill is like you throw him out there and he's just going to make a play.
Exactly.
Baker Mayfield can make the play. He can make all the throws in the NFL. He's proven that. But you said something about Odell, and I want to really come back to it because you are not the only one who said that.
Oh no, everybody's saying
Twitter
that.
Screams about that all the time. Every time I get on Twitter, Browns Twitter is going nuts about trading Odell Beckham, and I feel like as a Browns fan who studies the Browns, who knows the Browns, let's put an end to this conversation.
Yeah.
Any team in the NFL, I don't care which team it is, any team is better with an Odell Beckham Jr. Okay? Now, I want to give you some of the reasons why maybe he hasn't worked out so far. Let's forget about last year, okay? We had an absolute idiot
dumpster. It was a dumpster fire last year.
100% a dumpster fire. So let's just throw that out immediately.
So let's look at whenever. What week did he get hurt? Do you remember?
He got hurt against Cincinnati. It was the second game. God, I can't remember the week off the top of my head.
It was mid-season.
It was mid-season.
It wasn't like it was week 2 or it was week 15. It was right there towards the middle of the year.
And if you think about it, that's right around when the Browns offense really started picking up. You got to think, this was a brand new coaching staff that came in this year.
First-time head coach.
First-time head coach. they didn't have an off season either due to COVID. Now, some people are like, well, I know a bunch of teams. All the teams didn't really have an off season. But this was a complete revamp of this, not only this front office, but the coaching staff. They're still trying to work the kinks out. They're still working out the kinks during the season. And right about, unfortunately, when Odell got hurt was right when the Browns started finding their, they caught their stride and they started going. So I think if you put Odell Beckham in now, healthy Odell, it'll be fine. I think the offense will still be firing on all cylinders. It's whatever you want. Death with 1,000 paper cuts or one single slash.
And he could solve a really good. And I'm not knocking Odell, and I'm not knocking Stefan Diggs. But Stefan Diggs last year in Minnesota, it wasn't because we didn't know how to use him. It wasn't because he can't run routes. It wasn't because he's a bad. We used him like a Deshaun Jackson. He was literally, it was like, hey, buddy, go stretch the field. You've got great hands. You can make every catch in the playbook. You can win these deep routes. Go out there. You're gonna go deep a lot. Deep posts, deep corners, streaks. You're the deep guy. That's what you're doing. His catches went down. His touchdowns went up. His yards stayed about the same. I think he went over 1,000. And I think Odell could play that role very well. Let Landry do the slot stuff. Let Landry do all the dirty work down underneath. Get the check downs. Get the first. Get the first down on 2nd and 5, 2nd and short. And then let Odell be that guy that once you start saying we can't let Nick Chubb do this to us, Odell can take the top off of defense.
Exactly.
I mean, I think the Browns are in a win-win situation because if you decide to keep him, it's similar to the Viking situation with Diggs, except Odell. Well, Diggs really didn't voice that he wanted out. The Vikings were still able to get a lot of value out of that trade because Diggs and his agent didn't really say, oh, we're not going to play. We want out, blah, blah, blah. They were quiet about it. They handled it nice, and I love the way he handled that trade. He was unhappy.
I'd like to think that it worked out for both teams.
Oh, it's a win-win.
Because look at what the Vikings got in return. They got Justin Jefferson, arguably the best young receiver in the game right now. The best young receiver, not the best receiver.
No, I don't think he's the best receiver, but I think he has a clear path to being in the conversation of one of those top 5 guys.
100%. And then look at what Stefan Diggs did in Buffalo this year.
Oh my God,
he's got a quarterback who's got a rocket for an arm.
Yes,
now.
behind the scenes. Me and Chris are playing each other right now in a 2-week championship game in a fantasy league.
Yep.
And I was getting blown out going into Monday night, but my wide receiver in my flex was Stefan Diggs.
Yep.
So I'm now winning by like 9 or something. It's not a whole lot. And Chris's defense got him -9 points. So
it was a bad time for my defense.
It was, but we're going to see what happens in Week 17. I hate that we're playing in Week 17, though, because everybody's sitting.
I don't like that.
Whatever the case may be. But,
it is what it is.
But I think Diggs is having a hell of a year. Best year of his career with this quarterback that, again, can buy time.
Yep.
He's
fast.
Deep.
Josh Allen, a lot of people underestimate his speed. He is fast.
He is sneaky fast.
Yes, he is.
He's like Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
He's a high IQ player.
And I mean, it's also, you want to bring it back to Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
He's sneaky fast.
He should be a wide receiver.
Exactly. When at Texas A&M, he's a wide receiver for a little bit. Then he switched.
But the Browns are in this spot where I think it's a win-win, similar to the Vikings with Diggs. If you choose... there's 2 options here. There's one option, which is you keep him and you have Odell Beckham Jr. on your team. You trade him, you're probably going to get a decent amount of picks from him, because he doesn't want out of Cleveland.
The market right now for Odell, it's kind of a if somebody were to get him, they're not going to give up a whole lot. Maybe they
especially
give up
him coming off of an injury type. Yeah, that's true.
There's no for the Browns off season. Man, there's no reason to get rid of Odell. No reason at all. Unless you get that perfect price.
Exactly.
I mean, it's one of those...
Well, the Vikings weren't planning on trading Diggs until 2 first-round picks came across.
Well, there you go. It's everybody's got a price, but he's not for sale sort of thing. Exactly like... And I don't know if you want me to bring this up, but when Minnesota traded for Sam Bradford.
Oh, yeah, no.
Philly did not want to get rid of Sam Bradford, but when they saw the offer from Minnesota, it's one of those okay.
Yeah, you almost have to.
Yeah, it's like
and that's a topic that came up a lot in the Vikings off season of who here on this team right now, if this trade offer comes across, and a lot of teams do this, it's like, okay, right now, 3 number 1 picks, not number 1 overall, but 3 first round picks. That's the deal. Name who you're not trading. I would say Mahomes. I wouldn't put Rodgers on that list because they have a quarterback that they just drafted. So Rodgers would probably get traded for 3-1s right now.
Okay. I'll give
I'm
you
going
that.
to bust your bubble. Baker Mayfield for 3-1s is a trade the Browns would stamp immediately.
I don't think so. But if you want to go off that list, you put Mahomes. I think you put Herbert. Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
He just broke Baker's touchdown.
Yeah,
record.
he's playing pretty well.
As of right now, there's no reason
pretty well.
You put Mahomes, Herbert.
Maybe Watson. I don't know.
The problem with Watson is that he's getting hurt. He is semi-injury prone.
Exactly.
I mean, he's been all right this season. Somehow.
I'm telling
somehow
you.
he has survived.
You did. I think you did. Did you watch that Bills game with us over at my dad's house last year? The Bills Texans, when the Bills had him dead to rights in overtime, and he just stood there, got creamed, and then just rolled out, and they end up winning that game. I don't know. I think Watson might be on that list, but I want to talk about what Jack just brought up. He said it might be time to start saying Davante Adams is the best in the league, and I'd still put Diggs over him, and I'd still put Hopkins over him, but he's in that conversation.
I think if you have those three guys in that conversation, an argument can be made for each one of them.
Yeah, it's similar to the running back situation.
It really
and
is.
Everybody's going to have bias on the side. And I think Davante Adams is a hell of a wide receiver. He can in you out in the book. He reminds me a lot of Diggs. And then Hopkins is a different breed because Hopkins is so big and he's just strong.
Hopkins will catch literally anything that's thrown to him and then some.
Oh God, he's crazy.
Have you seen that man climb the ladder?
Yes.
When in the end zone,
he hit the Hail Mary a couple weeks ago. For my money, Hopkins has been the best wide receiver in the league for about 3 years now, and I've been saying it for about 3 years, and I've been laughed at. People have said, notably, people have brought up AJ Green living in Cincinnati, and they want to talk. And I'm not gonna attack people that aren't here to defend themselves. I'm not gonna bring up anybody's cold takes. I'm just saying, I've been saying Hopkins is the GOAT for not the GOAT, but the best in the league for 3 years now because you just watch him. And he doesn't drop balls, and he runs clean routes, and he's physical as all hell, and he's tall. And that's something that, look, you can have a 5'11" quarterback. You can have a Russell Wilson or a Baker Mayfield. Yeah. It really helps to be 6'6" when you're a wide receiver. There's a reason Randy Moss could go over people the way that he could. It's because he was 6'6" or 6'5".
There's only maybe a handful of receivers that are short that actually do well in the league.
And they're usually slot guys.
Usually.
It's usually like Edelman. Edelman's not huge. Thielen isn't a huge guy. He's like 6'1", 6'2".
Is he?
Yeah, he's not massive by any means. But, I mean, whenever you have those guys, they have to make up for it by just eating underneath.
Yep.
And Thielen can win deep. Don't get me wrong. Thielen can go up, and he's got hops and everything. But, Thielen's best work is done. I used to call him the slot machine because he put him in the slot, let him choose wherever he wants to go. Yeah. Obviously, he doesn't just pick where he goes. But he can do any route that you ask him to do, and he can win. And I think that's a huge benefit whenever you're not exactly the fastest or the tallest or anything like that. You aren't in the top 1% of those things. Yeah. Which I think, I don't know. I think that's why he's in my top probably 12. In the league. A lot of Vikings fans try and put him up there with Hopkins and Julio.
I don't think he's there.
He's not.
But that's not taking anything away from him.
No, you don't. Just because you're not in the Hopkins and Julio Jones and maybe Tyreek Hill's thrown in there. He's shifty. You see, he's one of those guys. He makes up for the hole. He's not tall. He can outrun Usain Bolt. He's so fast. And then you add Mahomes to that mix, and it's just how do you stop that? Yeah. It's pretty special. But we didn't get into too much offseason stuff, and we're pushing an hour here. So I want to go in. I want to talk about the offseason and what some needs are. Me and Jack are going to do an in-depth breakdown of the Vikings' needs and throw a few names out there. We're not going to dive in to draft profiles just yet, but we will talk. Obviously, the Vikings need some offensive line help. The Vikings maybe need a linebacker. We maybe need a defensive tackle. There's some positions. Maybe we need an edge rusher to go with Danielle Hunter since Sack Daddy Everson Griffin isn't here. We'll talk about all that kind of stuff next week. But I want to talk about specifically the Browns and what you're looking at with them because they remind me of the Vikings in a few different ways this year, and it's not just because they're running the same offense basically, but you look at their offenses, they want to run the ball, they want to throw when they can, kind of they run to establish the pass, they love to roll out on the play action, and then on the defensive side of the ball, I haven't watched the Browns in a minute because the Vikings season has been so tense, but early in the year they were getting pushed around, and it was not like they were dominating with the. I think you called them the Riverfront last year. Was the name of the defense?
Yeah, the defense was the Riverfront, and I'd like to point a couple things out on the defense. Number one, injuries.
Yeah.
Same here. Let me make that 100% clear. That secondary has been decimated.
Yeah.
Sendejo playing safety, and let me just point something out with Sendejo, and I know all you Vikings fans will know this. The man plays well against the run. He plays with a lot of heart, but my God, it's hard to find a safety that is that bad against the pass. He is atrocious.
I said for like years before I started the show and everything, I was like, this man is not a safety. Put him at linebacker.
He really is.
And make him the run defense linebacker that can kind of do okay against
it's like
the tight end.
Like a Jabril Peppers type.
Similar, yes. But then also something that this is where I thought you were going with it. I thought you were going to bring up that he's basically a walking 15-yard penalty.
He's actually been very...
Has he been good?
He's been good this season, actually.
Man, it was every week. He would come in and he would just, that meme of the Simpsons kid diving through the window? Yeah. It was that. He would just throw his head down and
he's been good this year.
He used to sell hats that said, it was like the MAGA hats or whatever, but it said "Make football violent again." And oh my God, I wanted one so bad. But yeah. The Vikings defense is also riddled with injuries right now.
So there's a reason why Sendejo is playing in the first place, because he was supposed to be a backup.
Yep.
Their Browns' second round pick this year, Grant Delpit out of LSU, he got hurt in training camp with a torn Achilles.
Yep.
I tell you what, Grant Delpit, he was supposed to come in and be an absolute difference maker.
Oh, yeah.
And when he went down, that was one of the most heartbreaking things that I've seen. Because right now, the Browns safety, you're looking at Sendejo, Sheldrick Redwine.
As opposed to Sheldrick White Wine. God, that's difficult.
As talking about, he's a little bit drier.
Yeah.
Than the wine.
Talking about Delpit, we did a safety show last year because Anthony Harris had this huge year. He led the league in picks, all this. And he was... he was a free agent, so we were like, are we going to tag him? So we did a show about safeties just in case, because it was like, look, if we're not going to keep Harris, Delpit was my guy. Delpit was the guy I was like, you get this guy. He plays. He's a playmaker, man. He just goes out there and he gets it done. So I'm a big fan of Delpit. And I remember asking you, I was like, what happened to Delpit? And you were like, he blew his Achilles out in training camp. And I was like, oh, that's terrible. But when he does, again, when he comes back, I mean, that's a huge addition for that defense.
That is absolutely huge. Also, you got to look at the cornerback situation. Greedy Williams has yet to play a snap this year, and he's not going to. Greedy Williams is a second-round pick last year out of LSU as well.
Big fan of LSU secondary.
But they're pretty much, we're the LSU Browns, essentially, with, Odell, Greedy, Landry.
Delpit. But why isn't he playing this year? Is he dinged up? Or is
he has been hurt.
I know he had a bad rookie year.
He was hurt his rookie year as well. And there were some growing pains. And again, I want to throw out last year. That was just an absolute cluster of a mess. It was, so let's not even get into last year. But if it's not one thing, it's another with Greedy. It seems like he just can't get on the field. And that's a real shame, because I think when he's on the field, he is a playmaker. No, he really is. With that being said, when he comes back, I think hopefully it would be all right. Now he's going to be under some pressure. He will definitely be under some pressure next year, because he's got a whole season now to sit and to get healthy. Now he's going to have a whole off season. He needs to come back next year ready to go.
Right now, the Browns are picking, probably like between like 16 and 18. somewhere in that range, right? They're a wild card team, so they'll pick
essentially,
towards the top of the playoff teams, barring a Super Bowl run or anything like, you know what I mean. But so let's say right now you have the 17th pick in the draft, and I'm not gonna make you go into names because I know that neither one of us ever really went through and dug into the draft.
I dive in the offseason.
Exactly, and that's what a lot of people do. But position wise, where do the Browns need? What do you think as an armchair GM, the guy who called of the Browns because he was so upset about the Trent Richardson trade?
Yeah, that's a true story. I Googled a number for the Browns, just a random number, and I called and I was screaming on the phone about them trading
It was
Trent.
probably the damn ticket salesman.
I mean, it probably was, but I mean, as long as somebody push the
somebody
message
sent
up
the message up the chain.
Yep.
Well, it ended up working out for you, but as
it didn't. They got Johnny Manziel with that pick.
Oh.
It did not work out.
Well, it worked out in the short time. Cause
it did not.
It didn't. I don't. Come on, let me try and give you a win. Right now, what position do you want in the draft? Like, what do you look at as your number one need?
Middle linebacker.
Okay, that's fair.
It's hard to argue with that. So here's linebacker situation. So the Browns run a 4-3 defense right now. Okay,
the way to go.
Yeah, an argument can be made for a 3-4.
Yeah.
I love the nose tackle position. It's what I played in high school, so I love 3-4s for that reason.
Well, you still got D tackles up there, just eating people.
Yeah, it was fun getting triple teamed.
I know. Yeah.
It really was. Anyway, so I'm going to go with middle linebacker, and here's the thing: the Browns linebacker situation is not good at all. The one guy who I'll say the Browns had this. They have this saying this year: "No bark, all bite." Okay, that's what Stefanski's been preaching for a while. And there's a player on the Browns who I thought would embody that, and that's their middle linebacker, Mack Wilson. Mack Wilson is all bark, no bite. He was supposed to have a breakout season this year because he was a 5th-round pick last year. And he had a pretty decent rookie year for a 5th-round pick. Like, wow, okay. Like, this guy's good, let's give him now, let's make him the full-time starter, and let's see what he does. He's done nothing. Against the Giants, he was actually a healthy scratch.
Really?
Healthy scratch.
Oof.
And the linebackers, they're weak. Like, right now we have Malcolm Smith, former Super Bowl MVP, who was with the Seahawks for that interception return. We got B.J. Goodson and Jacob Phillips. He was a 3rd-round pick this year. It's just kind of one of those,
Yeah.
Nobody's jumping off the board. Now, I will say Malcolm Smith has played so much better than what I thought he was going to play this season. He actually surprised me, and I hope he gets a contract extension. Not saying he's a full-time starter, but he has played very well. The Browns need a linebacker so bad it's not even funny. And I'm going to say middle linebacker. They let their all-pro linebacker, Joe Schobert, walk in the offseason. He went to Jacksonville. Yep. Now, I want to say it's not like the Browns front office did not offer him a contract. They did. Joe took the money and went to Jacksonville. Joke's on him. They've only won one game.
Well, they're about to get Trevor Lawrence.
Joke's on him. They only won one game. And the Browns are staring at the playoffs.
Were you sad when the Jets won a game? Not against you, but when they beat the Rams, did you want them to go 0-16? So like there was another team in the bin with you.
It's funny it's funny you bring that up. So I fought with myself about that. I had a Chris on my left shoulder and a Chris on my right shoulder, and all three of us just had an argument about that. So a part of me wanted them to go 0-16 because, man, that is the worst feeling in the world. That is literally...
Well, what's there been, like 2 teams that did it?
Two teams. The 08 Lions and the 2016 or 2017 Browns. That is the worst feeling in the world. Any viewer out there, do not like a team that goes 0-16. I mean, I came this close to like offing myself.
Dear God,
it was awful. I fell in love. I fell out of love with football that year. It was so bad.
Oh no, that's got to be painful.
You win one game in 2 years. That's awful. The fact that I'm still a fan defies all logic. But I wanted them to go 0-16 because I didn't want to be lumped in with the Lions.
Well, you always
we're already lumped in with the Lions because we're the
but at least
oldest.
the list gets longer, and the longer the list gets, the more likely they're going to forget one. Maybe it's the Browns, and they're like, yeah, I know the Lions went 0-16, then the Jets, and then in a couple years, hopefully, like the Saints go 0-16, and it's like like they're naming teams, and they're like, there's one more. Who is it? I don't have data out here. I'm not going to Google it, and then you get left off the list.
So so a part of me wanted to see that. A part of me wanted them to beat the Rams because I feel like that's a game the Browns will lose. Now I'm going to get into that. We'll get into that part later.
Yeah.
I wanted them to get the monkey off their back, to win a game and then lay down versus the Browns. But then old COVID had something to say about that. The Browns should have won that game. They should have won that game. They still were in it, playing with practice squad players as wide receivers, but they got behind. They got behind so fast that Baker had to throw the ball 53 times.
And like you said, you'll throw the ball 50 times. Something's not right.
Exactly. And that goes back to the defense. Okay? I also forgot to mention a couple safeties about the defense. They have Carl Joseph, who's played relatively well, and also Ronnie Harrison. They traded for him from Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. He's been kind of banged up this year, but when he plays, the man is a playmaker. I love him. They should sign him to an extension, praying that they do. Because when he's on the field, man, he's good. He's very good, but the Browns just do not have a defense. I mean, as far as cornerback, other than the warden himself, Denzel Ward, you've got Terrence Money Mitchell. He's good. He's a good slot corner. Put him in a nickel package. Is he an every down corner? No, he's not. But he's a good slot corner. It's just, God, we need defense. I almost want every single pick in the draft to be defense.
I understand that. There have been years where the Vikings have been in a spot where it's like, we just need to go like offensive line 3 or 4 times in this draft. And it's almost like throw crap at the wall until something sticks. And it feels like, me looking at the Browns, it seems like safety, depending on Delpit coming back and like how he looks, which obviously I'm not going to know when the draft rolls around, safety might be like a later in the draft option where it's like maybe grab somebody because this is a decent safety class, so maybe grab somebody and just to have as a good backup.
Oh yeah, you definitely need good backups because I think the starters next year, if all works out, it's going to be Delpit and Harrison. Exactly. And I think that's going to be a great tandem.
No, that could be.
And I think we might have the lakefront back.
So here's the question. So this is people are saying it's a historically deep quarterbacks draft class, and I warned you I was going to ask you this question. Yeah. And I know that you're not wanting to replace Baker next year under any circumstances. Like, he's the guy. But let's say a guy, and I know a couple quarterbacks' names, and there's a pretty good guy out of where's he at? It's like Illinois State or something. There's a few guys that like people are like, this guy's got a lot of talent. He just needs some molding, and that's kind of what you get out of a quarterback that you're taking on day 2 or early day 3. Would you be upset if the Browns drafted somebody, second, third, fourth round, somewhere in there? Like, would you kind of view that as a wasted pick? Are you like completely sold on Baker?
I am 100% sold on Baker Mayfield.
So like they didn't pick up his 5th year, did they?
They're going to.
They have the hang on. So he came into the league. So this would be the season that they would pick it up. Right?
Yes, they would pick it up. But I know they're going to be in talks with contract extensions. They're going to go ahead and pick up his 5th year option. Him and Denzel Ward, and then they're going to be. They're going to re-sign them. They're going to have their big payday.
It seems like that he's played well enough this year. Especially, he's had a couple games where he just like. It was like, damn, Baker, like you're showing that you still have some of that Oklahoma, and I know that's kind of been the criticism is that Oklahoma. He was the dude. Yeah. Like he was. So I pride myself on my ability to just pick a quarterback out of a hat and say that I want him, and then they go number 1 overall. Last year I watched Joe Burrow against Texas at week 2.
Everybody knew Joe Burrow was going to be.
Not then. He was projected to go in the 3rd round, and then as the season went on, he vaulted. And I was like, this Joe Burrow guy, it was like week 3 or 4. I was like, this Joe Burrow guy, like, he's going to play himself into the 1st round. I hope it's not high. Like, I want the Vikings to be able to grab him. Yeah. And he ends up doing that. And then Baker Mayfield, I was like, this Baker Mayfield kid, like, he's playing incredibly well. And this year, my guy, and Jack's guy as well. Jack got a sit-down interview earlier this year with the BYU quarterback.
Yeah,
Zach
I
Wilson.
watched a little bit of that. That was awesome.
Man, I thought Jack did a great job. I will 100% inflate. He's already got a big ego because he's been on a hot streak picking game balls. Yeah. Like he picks some random guy and he gets 2 picks in a game, and I'm just like, how are you doing this? But so he's starting to get an ego. But I'll blow it up. I thought it was a really good interview with Zach, and I watched one BYU game. And he was like putting balls into baskets, and they were up like 56 points or something, and he's still just floating them in. And I'm just like, who is this kid? Like immediately, and like just seeing how mobile he was and how athletic he was, I was like, this kid is gonna be like a good day 2 or day 3 option to get. And now there's legitimate talks about the Jets drafting him instead of Justin Fields.
I tell you what, I don't know why anyone would be high on an Ohio State quarterback.
I don't know why either.
There's no reason to. I will admit, I actually like Dwayne Haskins coming out of the draft. I thought that was like, okay, that's a good pick. Mm-hmm. I thought that. I was dead wrong.
Yeah, we thought wrong.
I'm not mad about it because, I mean...
He's a Michigan fan.
I'm not as big into college football as I am NFL. Let me say that first. But yeah, I pretty much root for 2 teams in college football, and that's Michigan Wolverines number 1 and Tennessee Volunteers. I'm not saying I'm like huge fans, but yes, I like the Michigan Wolverines, so obviously I'm not going to like Ohio State by any means.
Justin Fields, and I've heard a few people kind of say his ability to sense pressure in the pocket is not very good. It's like he feels a hand on him, and he's like, time to run, and then he just sprints away. Yep. And that doesn't work in the NFL. It doesn't. You quickly, unless you're Lamar Jackson and you are a special talent where you have that amount of speed. Yeah. But it usually comes at the cost of your ability to throw. And while Fields can throw the ball pretty well, he just feels like a guy, and we talked about this last week on the 4th and Long show, he feels like a guy who has always been the best athlete on the field everywhere he went, and he's been able to just lean on that. And once he gets to the NFL, he needs to quickly realize, like, oh, the pocket's collapsing.
RG3.
Exactly. Very similar. But I would argue RG3 was faster than Fields.
Yeah.
So, like, I think RG3 could, like, get some breakaway speed. Daniel Jones has some breakaway speed. I don't think Fields...
Until he trips over his own feet.
Yeah, until that turf monster gets him. But okay, so we've been going for like an hour and 10 minutes here. So we're gonna start shutting it down now. But Chris, it was fun having you on, and I am gonna give you a little bit of a sign off. I would like to make this a thing. He's definitely coming back on next year because the Vikings have the AFC North. So he will definitely be on to talk about the Browns. We'll go back and forth. I'm sure we'll end up watching that game together like we did last time when we played in London. And it wasn't a good time.
0-6. That was 0-16.
Oh, it was, because I remember thinking the same thing you thought about the Jets. I was like, the Vikings are going to be the first win, and you guys went into halftime winning.
Yeah. And then maybe we'll make the trip to Minnesota and go watch that game live.
Probably not.
If COVID season doesn't happen.
If COVID doesn't happen. If COVID's not a thing for the draft, we might go up to the draft up in Cleveland this year.
I looked at hotels, man. They're booked, and the ones that aren't are pricey. I have looked it up.
Jacob Hudson says the Browns suck.
I see him over there with his.
Jacob's a Bengals fan, so that he's had a rough go of things the past few years.
I got a bet with a friend that the Browns will win a playoff game before the Bengals do, and I made that bet like 10 years ago.
Me and you have a bet, and this is the first time I've ever talked about this bet.
Yeah,
so it's
I forgot about this bet.
This is the last thing we're going to talk. Well, hang on. They say your. Well, here, I'll do this, and then I'll let you say your final little message thing. But Chris, I just want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's always a good time talking with you. Me and Chris.
I feel like we're just talking down on my couch or in my basement.
Me and Chris are pretty good buddies. He married me and my wife. He was the officiant in that wedding. And
let's preface it that. This is not a polygamous thing.
No, Chris has his own wife and a daughter and everything. But I'll let you get into that. This bet that me, my brother, and Chris have. My brother is also a Vikings fan, and I'm sure you'll see his face at some point in the offseason. We have a bet that if the Vikings win a Super Bowl before the Browns, Chris, who, as you can tell, other than the top of his head, is a relatively hairy man, and he has to wax a large V into his chest, and me and Josh are each going to rip a strip to foam a V on his chest for the Vikings, and obviously that's not going to feel good.
No.
But if the Browns win a Super Bowl before the Vikings, me and Josh have to. Let me do this. We have to wax our armpit hair on one armpit, so that way when we put them together, they look like butts, because the Browns are crap, and crap comes from butts. That's the joke, and we've had this bet for probably 5 years now.
Pretty much, yeah. It was before my daughter was born. And my daughter is almost 5.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah.
Time flies. I'm getting old.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll let you give your final thoughts, and then I'll sign off, and I'll try and give. Jack usually gives a hype speech at the end of every show, and I'll try and do that for him this week.
So I'm looking this up real quick because I saw it earlier. Good stat for anybody out there. So the Browns, obviously, they've got a good offensive line. You said that earlier.
PFF's number 1 rated in the league.
Exactly. So here's the thing. Their right guard, Wyatt Teller, he's been in and out with injuries. Got him from Buffalo. But, man, this year he has come alive. And here's a stat I want you guys to know. He's number 1, the highest graded offensive lineman of 2020 right now out of everybody. The highest graded. Solid. And when he's in the game, the Browns average 183 rushing yards. When he's in the game. Without, they get 88 rushing yards.
Oh, wow.
So he is a key. He is the key for the Browns winning. You wouldn't think that an offensive lineman like that is a
Vikings
key, but
fans would.
Oh, I guess that's true. This is one of the few years that the Browns have all 5 positions were set. Very rare. But Wyatt Teller is one best right guard in NFL in the NFL right now, and that's hard telling. And I think, man, if he plays, it's gonna be a good game. And the Browns, all they got to do, win and they're in. That's it. There's a couple different scenarios if they lose that maybe they can get in. They're difficult, but you know what? Let's not rely on that. Let's win and get into the playoffs for the first time since 2002.
You never want to back into the playoffs. You always want to win, get yourself in, and that's always a good feeling to go into a game knowing hey.
And I think they're gonna do it. I really do.
Especially with Big Ben not playing. And I'm not saying that you can't beat Pittsburgh without
I agree.
Circumstances, but I'm just saying with Big Ben not playing, it is the Mason Rudolph, Myles Garrett, match or whatever that everybody's
I'm not going to get into that. Okay?
I know.
I won't get into that at all. That's tough.
But I agree with you. I think the Browns are going to win that game and go into the playoffs as a wild card. And
there are some people out there, my dad being one of them, who, just like me, diehard Browns fan. My dad was born and raised in Cleveland. That's why I am the way I am. That's why I bleed brown and orange 24/7 all day, every day. But my dad told me he wanted to play Pittsburgh at full strength, and he wanted to beat them and show them that, hey, the Browns are back. And while I love that sentiment, I'll take a win. I don't care who's playing. I want to win.
Exactly.
So with Mason Rudolph playing quarterback, I'm A-okay with that. I'll take an easier win. Not easy, easier win.
No, it's definitely easier, especially with them resting guys up for the playoffs, kind of giving them
and
a mini
it's
bye.
smart by Pittsburgh to do that.
It's
very, very smart.
The Vikings were a wild card team last year, and we went into a game and we were locked as the sixth seed. And we were like, we're not going to play our stuff. Why would we even risk playing it? We're playing Khalil Mack, first of all. So, why would we put Cousins out in this? Let's go. And it paid off because we got a week's worth of rest, and then we went and we beat the Saints in New Orleans.
Yep.
So, you might have 6 touchdowns in the regular season.
I want to point that out. I will never forget the Minneapolis Miracle game.
Oh,
I will never forget that. Just your reaction, because I called you immediately as soon as Diggs scored.
Well, I was behind. The story of this game is I was watching it on Fox's streaming app.
Yeah.
Or Spectrum's streaming app or some type of streaming app. So I was about 2 plays behind. And I saw, we took a sack or something, the play before.
Yeah.
Oh, we hit a pass and spiked it. And there were 7 seconds or whatever was on the clock. And you called me, Dad called me, Josh called me. Everyone is calling me. And I'm swiping you guys down, and I'm thinking Josh and Dad are going to call and be like, oh, you okay? Making fun of me. Because I'm an emotional football fan who, screams and,
If the Browns make the playoffs this Sunday, I'm going to be crying on my couch. I will be crying.
Well, it's been a minute. But during that game, I had, thrown my hat so many times I had stopped getting up to go get it because I was like, I can't. So I the play happens, and I immediately am just like, oh my God. And my grandpa just died, and he was a diehard Vikings fan. It was a very emotional game. And it felt like it was the Destiny team. It felt like and I know the world doesn't revolve around me, but Paul passes away. You know, he never got to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl. He passes away. We win this game with a 2 seed going to play the 1 seed without their starting quarterback. They've looked kind of crappy without, Winston. So it's Nick Foles. Let's go to the Super Bowl. Let's win this Super Bowl. And then 38-7. It humbled me very quick. And honestly, and I went home and I sat on the toilet and cried while I listened to Popo Away. and since then, the emotion, the highs are high. The lows are nowhere near it. Like, you'll never know, just in your soul, knowing, like, oh my God, we're winning the Super Bowl, aren't we? And then, in the Vikings
What's that supposed
Stadium,
to mean? You'll never know what that's like.
You will never know what that's like, Chris.
We'll see.
Well, I'm not saying that you can't, get to the championship game or anything. I'm just saying, I hope and pray that you do not go through, a loved one who loves the team, never seen a Super Bowl, passes away, and then you're just like, this is the Destiny team, isn't it? This is it. This is how you. And then it just 38-7.
I appreciate
That's all I have
you,
to say.
and I hope and pray you never have to deal with your favorite football team
Going 1-31.
No, leaving town.
Yeah,
but thanks for that too.
You've been through a lot of pain. I understand why you bolted. The Browns caused a lot of stress. But anyway, I'm going to give the Jack style hype speech. And the hype speech is that I've been saying it all year. You look forward to 2021 for the Vikings, and they have basically 3 free agents coming back, free agents that we don't actually have to sign. We've got Michael Pearce coming in, who was an outstanding nose tackle for a 3-4 defense in Baltimore. He's going to come into this 4-3 scheme. He's going to eat guys up. He's going to be like young Linval Joseph, dare I say, Fat Pat Williams. He's going to come in and just, really improve this run defense right off the bat. We'll get into Danielle Hunter. For a lot of people's money, the best pass rusher in the league, definitely in that top 5 conversation. Youngest and fastest player to get to 50 sacks in the NFL's history. Just a stud coming back this season. And then we're getting Eric Kendricks back. And if you think that this run defense is going to look the way it looks, 6 touchdowns to Alvin Kamara, 1 to Taysom Hill, just getting pushed off the ball 2-3 yards before contact and all that. If you think it's going to look anything like that with Hunter, Pearce, and Kendricks in there, it's not. Not to mention Anthony Barr might get cut, might not. We'll see what happens. If he does stay, we know that he can play the run very effectively. It's going to be fun. Throwing another corner or two. There's a lot to be optimistic about. Justin Jefferson's rookie season showed that, he might be the best wide receiver we've drafted since Moss. We drafted Diggs, but maybe you can surpass Diggs even. And, you never know what's going to happen. But Jefferson looks good. Thielen's still got a few years left of doing his thing. Cousins has looked good this year and hasn't had those incredibly low lows that he's had in the past. And Dalvin Cook, -2 games this year, stayed kind of healthy. At no point did he blow his knee out. He held his groin.
It's always a plus.
It is always a plus, especially with Dalvin Cook the year we extend him, because it felt... In my soul, I knew Dalvin Cook was blowing his knee out this year because we signed him to this big extension. He's always getting hurt, and it just felt like... So Dalvin Cook stayed healthy, and if we can just get this team healthy, get an off-season, get some young players in there, build a wall, no Trump intended, for Kirk Cousins, we will 100%, be a much better squad next year. And I'm excited to look at the schedule, break down the schedule, and do a whole bunch of draft coverage for you guys. So I've been Jordan Hawthorne. This is Chris Paxidis. Get used to his ugly mug because you will be seeing it again at some point next year. But make sure to follow us on Twitter at LTB Vikings. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook. Tone those notifications on everything so you get the little ding whenever we go live. And Jack, if you're still watching, miss you, buddy. Excited to talk to you next week. Hope everything's okay with you and your dad. As
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.